Hey everybody, John C.
Denise Richards and my loyal assistant, Lulu.
Lulu, good to have you today. It's kind of hard to see Lulu. Back her up a little bit. Let's get a quick shot of Lulu this morning. It's a good day.
Yeah.
There you are, Lulu.
There
You are just such a good little dog. Welcome back to another All Things Home. We are so glad you're with us today.
Today is November 10th?
November 10th, Thursday, November 10th, if you're watching this on that day. If not, then it's not November 10th.
Right.
But if it is November 10th, happy holidays to you, because there's some holidays today. There's some things going on, and there's some special things. Now, my favorite thing about November 10th is definitely Vanilla Cupcake Day.
I believe that.
Did you know it was Vanilla Cupcake Day?
I did not know that, John. Now I'm going to have a vanilla cupcake today.
I'm not a big fan of chocolate cupcakes, so I'm glad it's not Chocolate Cupcake Day, because I'm just not a fan of chocolate cupcakes.
The things you learn. I just had no idea.
So Vanilla Cupcake Day, awesome. Glad it's that day. Now it's some other holidays as well, too. What else we got going on today?
Well, I think we have some Sesame Street Day.
Sesame Street Day. Did any of you guys out there ever watch Sesame Street growing up?
I did. Oh,
did you?
Yes, I did.
We did a little bit on PBS. For some reason, though, my parents cut it off after a little while. I'm not sure why.
Maybe, I don't know, Oscar the Grouch.
Could be.
He reminded me a lot of my dad.
Really?
Yeah, my dad was really grouchy like that.
Wow, that's interesting. And I'm trying to think who on there would have made me think of my dad, but I can't think of who that would have been. But anyways, happy Sesame Street Day. And then also today is International Accounting Day. And we're going to talk about somebody who we know who does accounting and bookkeeping really well at the end of the show, so stick around. We'll get you connected with them. But happy International Accounting Day. I know a lot of you guys out there were thinking about that when you woke up this morning.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know it was top of mind for me.
Was it? Me too.
Lulu even asked me, what are you going to do today for International Accounting Day?
I know. Yeah, what are we doing? How do we celebrate? What do we wear? You walk around with a book and a pencil and a ledger, I guess. I don't know what you do.
Yeah.
Anyways, enough of that silliness.
Okay.
Hey, if you missed our video from last week, we answered a lot of great questions in regards to questions to ask your lender and your mortgage person, your mortgage gal specifically. What do you ask? Like, what do you need to know to interview them? What do you need to know about rates? All that fun stuff. So if you want some of that information, instead of us rehashing it today on today's video, look at last week's video. It's a great video on what to ask your lender.
Yep, because they're not all created equal.
They are not created equal. That is so true. Let's jump into our episode today. How do you feel about that?
I feel like it's time, John.
I feel like it's a goofy episode. Are we a goofy episode today? All right, so today we're going to talk about rate shock. Rate shock. Do you think some buyers out there are shocked about the rates?
They are shocked. I've got buyers that the rates went up so quickly, they were like,
Breaks.
No, not happening.
Yeah. And that's interesting because I was telling you earlier, our first loan that Angie and I ever had was at 7.5%. And at that time, that was still kind of high, actually. I think people were comfortable with it because it had come down a little bit. But when the rates are going up like they have so quickly, it's a different emotion and a feeling for a buyer.
It truly is. And we are exceeding that rate now. We're getting close to 8%. The Fed just hiked the rate another 0.75%. Bond market's not happy. It's gonna be kind of brutal, but guess what, John?
What?
I have good news.
You do?
I do.
What is it?
What if instead of 7.5%, a buyer could go into their mortgage at 5.5%?
Oh, that'd be nice. How does that happen?
Well, it's actually like renting your rate, right? But instead of the buyer paying the rent for the rate, the seller pays the rent for the rate. So for those 2 years, your interest rate is 2% and then 1% lower.
Nice.
And then guess what?
What?
It's a two-part deal.
Okay.
Because when you get to the end of that, you've got your temporary solution, but what about your long-term solution?
Yeah, because you don't want to be stuck with something that keeps moving around too much.
No. And even though it would stay fixed like that for the balance of the 28 years, who wants to stay in a 7.5% mortgage?
Nobody.
Everybody's going to refinance. Everybody. It's going to be a huge refinance boom. And guess what else?
What else?
We have positioned ourselves to be able to do no-cost refinance.
That's a good deal because when somebody refinances, they may not know this, but when you refinance, there's a cost to that. And it's usually a pretty big chunk of change.
Almost as much as it is when you buy a house.
Yeah, so then typically when you refinance, you're paying or putting that back into the mortgage. So you refinance, your payments may be lower, but your long-term amount is probably up.
Usually you have to borrow more than your loan balance to be able to do the refinance or bring money to closing, which nobody wants to do.
Nobody wants to do
that. But if we're in position to do this for 18 months after your purchase, refinance it, half a point, full point, how often we need to do it is what we're doing. It is called the NEO Perfect Mortgage Promise.
Oh, the NEO Perfect Promise. Say that again?
Yeah, that one. The NEO Perfect Mortgage Promise.
Now, NEO, that's the name of your lending group that you're with?
Yes, NEO Home Loans. That's right.
I like that.
Yep.
So 2 parts there. Let me clarify, and maybe I'm wrong. So there's 2 different things there. One is having the seller help you buy down your rate, right? That's one option.
Yep, it's a temporary, so it's not nearly as expensive.
Okay, and that's something that would be agreed upon during the negotiations of the purchase.
Yes, so heads up, listing agents, putting that into your listing, letting the buyers know that your seller is going to give them a 2% discount on their interest rate could be huge.
Could be huge, and it's an option, especially if somebody is already up against the line for what they can afford every month. So this may back down that payment a couple $100 at least a month if the seller's willing to do that.
It's considerable.
Yeah.
It's truly, and it's a game changer to be able to do this short term and then to have a free solution for the long term.
Yeah. So what I like about that is it gives another option, right? So it's more things for a buyer to use in their arsenal of picking a home loan or option. So then the other one, it's different, right? So the other option that they would have is basically being able to refinance within the first 18 months. Does that have a fancy name as well too? The Denise loan? No? Not that you know of?
No, I don't know. I'm going to have to come up with one. And
Come up with a
you
fancy
can come
name
up
for that.
with one, please.
Post it below.
Post it below.
Post it below. I think that's a good idea.
Yep. And visit my Facebook page, Mortgage Professional on Facebook, and take a look at the information on this program.
Great idea.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, take a look at her page. We'll post that in the show notes below in the description of this. So you have that option. You have the buy down. You have the refinance option for up to 18 months after you close on the home. And then you have what we have, temporary solution until the long term sets in, right?
That's right.
So we hit on that as well.
That's right.
Anything else you want to talk about with those loans? I think it's important for people to always check in with their lender to see what options are available.
And if you're working with a builder who's offering you a huge incentive, ask if they have this 2-1 temporary rate buy down. And if they don't, they got to give you a concession and let you work with me.
That's right. Well, yeah, and that's one thing I don't know we've ever talked about in all this time of videos, and that is if you're in new construction, you're having a home built, a lot of those builders, especially the big ones, Lennar, DeVosta, they may have their own in-home type lenders, but it doesn't mean you have to go with them.
Right.
And they may offer some type of incentive, some type of portion of closing costs, but it still may not be as good as what Denise can offer you, or a loan to where it fits your needs appropriately.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point as well, too.
Great way to put it.
I did put it a great way, didn't I? Good. Anything else you want to go on that before we move on to the next thing?
I think, the rate shock has hit, and...
Yeah, rate shock. Boom. So I want to talk just real quick about the market, because I always like to give a little market news. You gave some really good market news in regards to real estate rates and where we're at, where that looks like that's going to go to at the moment, knocking on the 8% range. What we noticed here, too, with Hurricane Ian that came through, which, by the way, we got this Nicole out on the other coast right now. She's probably knocking at the door over on the east side, but it's not quite as heavy and hard hitting, it looks like. But anyways, what I noticed, I was watching a video from the Florida Real Estate Association the other day, and homes and the average sales and prices was doing decent before the storm. Storm hits, for about 45 days, pretty much everything goes to standstill. So all the stats get a little miscued if you didn't know it was a hurricane, right? So you have a pause in mortgage lending, you have a pause in home closes, pending sales, all that stuff. But what this report was showing is that after the last 5 major hurricanes that hit Florida, the same scenario plays out. You have the market going in a direction, the hurricane hits, the market takes a huge pause and a dive for a short time. Not prices, just the inventory and what's going on and off the market. But then within weeks after the storm, it's back to where it was pre-storm. So I thought that was interesting, because a lot of people freak out when these things are like, oh, the market's going to do this, it's going to do this. Actually, all the stats that are facts show that it just recovers right back to where it was before.
I saw something very, very similar. House prices are going to continue to go up. I mean, we are still dealing with a huge housing shortage. And now after Hurricane Ian, it's gotten that much bigger.
Yeah, and that's one of the big things right now is inventory. Inventory has not shot up like they thought it was going to do with the interest rates. So that's an interesting thing. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about that in our next episode as well, too. We're going to talk about equity in homes, if we could, and then one other piece to that puzzle. So make sure that next week you are watching this as well. And by the way, so that people don't have to think, hey, next week and put on the calendar, just like and subscribe to this video, because then you'll get notified in your notifications on YouTube if you're watching this. Is that smart? Man, I love this. I'm
so smart, John.
On top of it. Anyways, we're so glad you guys watched this today. If you have any questions, call or text Denise about these options that she just mentioned. And if either one of these still are not a fit for you, it doesn't matter. There's multiple items out there for you, loan purchase packages that would probably fit their scenario. And if not, give it 2 weeks. These guys are always coming out with more videos.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I said videos, more options
more
for them.
options, yes.
Yeah, so always be checking in with Denise on those things. Cool.
ABC, always be checking with Denise.
Always ABCD. Always be checking. Oh, WD with Denise. That didn't work. All right. Anyways,
Close.
Enjoy. Have
Bye.
a great week. Bye-bye.